The Project Kuwait. Learn, live.
All right, hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the Project Kuwait. So, Ramadan Kareem.
Happy Ramadan.
Did I say that right? I said that right.
كل عام وانتم بخير. No, that was the
I was
wrong
going to
one.
say that.
بارك عليكم الشهر. بارك عليكم الشهر.
There's many Arabic
I'm the
greetings.
Kuwaiti one, dude. No, my first greeting was wrong.
Okay. But yes, Ramadan Kareem from us guys at the Project Kuwait. And so we've got a special episode for you guys today, which is specifically about a little bit of discipline and how we can go about making the most of Ramadan.
Yeah, we dive into a lot of tips and tricks of how to get through the month and sustain a healthy body, I would say, throughout the month and not really fall off the wagon like you see a lot of people do in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of people worry about what are they going to be able to maintain all the work they've been doing the rest of the year. But we definitely go through some really cool, useful things that you guys can take on to actually understand and actually maybe move yourselves further on because of the discipline and maybe the time schedules and the way of training and the way of eating that you can do during Ramadan.
Yeah, and stay tuned in this episode. Meg drops a lot of knowledge bombs in terms of the science. And then Liam saves me on the science and calls me out and then saves me on it with the melatonin, which was pretty funny because I explained it and then Liam's like, so you meant it this way. But stay tuned. I think that's like in minute 30 or something. But it's a fun episode. You'll come out with some good, tips for the rest of the month.
Good, guys. Enjoy. And yeah, if there's anything at all that we can do for you during the month of Ramadan, then you just let us know. Obviously, you can hit us up on the Instagram, on any social media. We look forward to hearing from you.
All this and more in today's episode.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode.
We're in. Game on.
I thought for sure I was going to slip.
See, I'm trying to stay away from it. But people won't get it because they don't understand Sex with Emily is, another podcast that's ranked in the top 3. So, yeah. And we were talking about the whole Sex with Emily bit earlier. But
I don't know how she just keeps being us because of the titles. That's it. It's definitely because of the title.
I think I read somewhere sex is the #1 search term in the Middle East.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't either.
Hey, and that's just sad because the internet isn't where you should be searching for that information.
Well, you can't get it from home, dude. I mean, like, sex is such a taboo
people need to talk
subject
about it,
here.
otherwise they're going to get a bunch of false information.
Well,
scary.
well, I mean, Pornhub's like their go-to, so you can't diss on porn.
No.
We're not going to get into that. Surely we're not going to get into that on ratings for freaking.
All right, we're so going down after this. We're going to lose like 20.
We might gain.
30. We might gain. We might get some listeners.
We might gain.
We might get some listeners.
I would just do the project.
Are you in charge of the Google ads? Maybe you can start working with that information to plug our stuff somewhere.
I'm pretty sure we'd probably, our website would probably go higher on the old Google ads.
Sounds like good information
I'd
to me.
have lots of fun doing the SEO for that site. So we're going to have adverts all over our website now. That's it. Just for enlargement and all sorts of different stuff.
There's a lot of parallel terms we could use.
Yeah,
dude, we should not be talking about this considering the subject and topic of our show today.
Oh, actually.
All right.
Yeah, should probably clean that up.
Yeah,
no, cares, dude.
It is a part of life.
It's part of life, and it's part of the show right now. We can talk about that.
Well, it's hilarious.
No censorship.
True. Very true.
There's absolutely no censorship.
Very true. So what are we actually talking about?
Ramadan.
Yeah, I'm talking about the holy month.
Great segue.
So,
but on a serious note, we wanted to touch on Ramadan and eating habits around Ramadan, right? Because
okay, let's segue in after a different topic.
Well, really, from my point of view, when I came from Kuwait, this is the main. I actually landed just before the end of Ramadan.
What's going on?
You in, Meg?
You all right, Meg?
Smashing the keyboard.
Me? What happened?
That's right.
Are you still on that little nap of yours?
If there's random noises.
I didn't know if you guys... Okay, I'm looking at the hats and the water bottles, first of all. So.
All right. Hold on. Do you want to look at Liam or me? Here, we'll give
I don't care.
We'll
Hi,
give you Liam. He can flex into the camera instead of the mirror this time.
What's up?
Yeah,
Great,
everybody that's listening, Liam was flexing into the mirror.
Yeah, there was a mirror there where I didn't realize it was before, so I just checked it out, It's late at
We've
night.
done like 40 episodes in this room.
But I'm sure you had cover over it before.
No, dude.
I'm sure you had cover over
I took the cover off like 2 months ago.
Maybe I just haven't flexed enough then. Maybe I need to flex more. Maybe that's something
So
I
there's
need.
a mirror behind where I'm set up? Is that what the deal
it's
is?
direct.
Okay.
So what I was saying was actually,
You were saying Ramadan.
I landed like 3 days before the end of Ramadan. And so obviously from the Western world, Ramadan is like probably the furthest removed kind of way of life from what we're used to.
Yeah.
Even just the whole concept of like not eating for a long period of time, like we're pretty alien to. But obviously, it's one of the holiest months as well. Coming from the UK or the US, obviously we have very multicultural society. And so when we kind of landed here, it was a bit like, okay, like what are the rules? What should I be doing? What should I not be doing? And then obviously you have like some of the eating practices there around Ramadan. When the sun goes down, like it's like feast time. It's like crazy feast time. And some of the, like, there's like Vimto promotions. There's like sugar and confectionery promotions, like going crazy. So it's kind of like for us, it's almost like, okay, we see this at Christmas. And we see this at Christmas a lot. And like, it's like, okay, let's like overindulge. And it's kind of interesting since I've been here now 3 years, like to actually understand a little bit more about why people fast. And then also some of the things that maybe some people don't like about Ramadan in the kind of the overindulging in the evening times. And so, yeah, it's a really interesting period of time for me, particularly like just observing everything else. But obviously working within the personal training and fitness industry, then it's obviously a time that people are very conscious about, okay, how should I be eating?
Yeah.
And that's probably, I mean, that was definitely something that we've kind of talked about like before the show and something that we kind of wanted to touch on because it's quite a sensitive time for a lot of people. And like they're kind of going, okay, what am I supposed to be doing? Actually, some people lose weight. Man, you got a problem? You okay?
Yeah. Like, I don't like the microphone being on the other side. So switch sides.
So yeah, it's difficult because some people either say that they massively lose weight and some people say they massively gain weight.
Yeah.
And so obviously it kind of depends massively on the kind of the type of person that they are and how they're eating and obviously their social calendar as well, which I think is probably the main point. And that's like the social calendar. How many times are they going to different places to go and eat massive amounts and what's their discipline like when they're doing it?
Well, the first week, you're going everywhere. Usually it starts with immediate family. You're having your lunch. I mean, this is from the Kuwaiti perspective. This is what I do. And I'm horrible at practicing in Ramadan because I can't be bothered. My day is the same. I just fast. And then it's break fast, go to my grandmother's house, have dinner with the family and just come back home. Now, previously, I would pig out.
Yeah.
Like I'd hit up the tishriba. It was always tishriba. That was my go-to. It's like this bread with like a sauce, like a marag. It's actually damn good, dude.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's so good, dude. It's like all bread. It's like all bread.
So bread with like a bread sauce.
It's literally all bread, right?
Nice.
And like I'd go to town. Go to town on the sambusas, the kubba, like all the treats. And then you get into the sweets. Like Ramadan, I'd always gain.
Yeah.
But when I became a little bit more health conscious, that's when I was like, okay, well, what can I do to get some of the health benefits out of this? And it was like, instead of having the sweets or instead of having the tishriba, I was having the meat from the tishriba.
Yeah.
So, I was kind of trying to maneuver around it. I didn't do too well the first year. Second year, I just brought my own food. Second year, it literally turned into me walking to my grandmother's house with 2 pots, meat and friggin' vegetables. And that was it. And I felt better. Honestly, like I felt great that year. I felt like I got some of the health benefits out of it.
Yeah.
But it is very traditional. It's very family orientated. Like, I love it because it brings the family closer. You see them every day versus, once a week. So it's pretty cool. It's very traditional. And I don't really partake in the traditions that much. Like, I don't do the Diwania scene either.
Yeah.
I'm at the gym.
Well, the gym is basically doing
pretty
it
much,
as well.
pretty much,
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. It comes down to the choices that we make after Futur, in my opinion. Like, do I want to go hang out with the guys and sit around for 4 or 5 hours? Or do I want to go to the gym, try and stick to as much of a normal routine as possible to get all the health benefits from fasting?
Yeah, the thing that happens kind of along with it is a lot of people look at it as this big disruptor in like a daily routine. And so they kind of use it as an excuse of like, oh, well, it's okay to stay up later and not sleep as well because it's Ramadan. It's okay to eat a little bit extra because I've been starving myself all day. It's exactly that Christmas mentality, but like for 30 days straight. I'm not going to eat much today because I'm going to binge later. And just to partake in kind of all the indulgences because it's Ramadan time.
Because
it's okay to kind of back off on stuff.
Because it's there as well, isn't it? If you're going to like 1 or 2 different places, like dinner, then you've got 1 or 2 different like relatives going, oh, well, I made this and like you should try this and you got to do this. And then actually, I think a lot of people, they manage to stick to like fairly normal diet for like the first couple of days and then they kind of give in one time and then it's just like, it's gone.
Yeah. Well, you've got a lot of stuff going with it too. Like when you give up, I mean, if you think of Kuwait and its coffee intake, a lot of that stuff. So when you go through a lot of those types of detoxes for the body, let's say in the first like week or 2, it's a huge shock to your system. And so there's like, headaches that come along with it. So you're not sleeping as well, but you're also not getting the caffeine that your body, is kind of detoxing from. And then you're not eating as well. I mean, it's just a toxic combination all around. And there's a lot that the body is going through. But fasting itself, like there are tons of health benefits. But I think that's kind of the intention for today is like to help people navigate that of if they are someone that's a little bit more health conscious, to make the most out of that time to where they're not giving up any of the strength and results that maybe they've been working on so far this year. And they're not going to, kind of get into that slump of by the end of Ramadan where they're not getting anything done and kind of slipping backwards the other way. So
do you think that people should maybe be like, because it's effectively intermittent fasting, like, because we're fasting for a period of time and then we're obviously then eating for a period of time. Do you think that people should be kind of starting to prepare, like to do small fasts coming up to the beginning of Ramadan, like as a preparation?
I think that's definitely an idea. It's definitely something to play with. I'm a fan of intermittent fasting, maybe like once a month. I try to go for a 24-hour fast every once in a while. The only difference with my fasting and intermittent fasting in my experience is I still drink water. And I know that during Ramadan, that's, part of the extra hurdle, I would say, that a lot of people have in dealing with the fasting process, of, especially when you are eating more sugar or giving up the caffeine and those kinds of things, that hydration becomes really, really important. And when you're not doing it all during the day, and especially if it's in those summer months. So it's nice now that Ramadan, I think my first Ramadan, when I was there, it was really, really hot. And now it's getting a little bit earlier in the year where temperatures are a little bit cooler now. So I think everybody kind of looks forward to Ramadan in the winter months versus the summer months.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, they're like longer days as well in the summer months. So like sometimes it can be, especially compared to like the Western world. I mean, sometimes the days here can be pretty crazy long. So,
but I'd say, but just fasting itself, like with the benefits, like to play with that outside of Ramadan, I think is a great idea to get people to maybe not be so concerned about it or like let it stress them out so much leading into it, especially that first week. I think everybody after the first week feels all right with it. It kind of becomes the new routine. But there's a lot of health benefits. I mean, it kills off a lot of unhealthy and dead cells in your body that can cause, damage and disease in other ways. It does great for insulin sensitivity. I know, Maddie, you had brought that up when you and I were talking earlier.
It promotes blood sugar control by reducing insulin resistance. It brings down inflammation throughout the body. It does a lot for your body. And it's funny because every major religion incorporates fasting into it. And I mean, which is beautiful because, regardless of what religion you're from, there's some type of fasting. The Christians have Sabbath Saturday. Can anyone correct me on this one?
Nope.
Aren't you guys
I'm terrible when it comes to it.
What's going on here?
I'm a Bible school dropout, but I'm a Bible school dropout, but I do know that like in Easter, time or Lent or whatever, it's like, on Fridays you give up the meat, kind of thing. I think that's a form of like fasting, is giving up something. Yeah, I think I was just talking to one of my friends who's from Greece, and they were talking about the Greek Easter, and there's, fasting period. I think they do like a 30 days of fasting as well.
Lent? Is it Lent?
Yeah, so that's like
that's
giving up kind of some specific
giving something up.
Okay, so no one listening to this show take religious advice from us. I think that's the number one.
To be honest, this isn't the most religiously directed show on the airways, but that's because we try and stay away from stuff like that. Because everyone's beliefs are their own beliefs.
Yeah, but I mean, I think every religion has put fasting in there for reasons, beyond the whole try and feel the hunger, the starvation, and, living without. More or less, I think for the health benefits, it's very beneficial. Yeah. It's good for inflammation, especially in the gut. That's one thing where you can heal your gut through intermittent fasting.
You can heal your gut, but then you just don't want to smash it up again.
That's the thing.
Hitting it with a massive dump of sugar.
It totally depends. Yeah, just not eating doesn't do these benefits. That's the important thing, I think, with the insulin sensitivity, with like your cardiovascular health too. It can help with your resting heart rate, your blood pressure. There's all kinds of great things that can happen from it, but that depends on what you do then when you break that fast big time. That's not just from not eating or fasting. Like that's not to be confused with. That's just starving yourself, and that's not the intention of this. Yeah, it totally depends on what you do. Like the hardest part is when you break the fast. The fasting isn't the hardest part, to be honest. Yeah. Fasting is kind of the easy part. It's the choices that you make after that. It's like any kind of those crash diet things, like the whole 30 or something like that, right? Like you get through those 30 days. It's really day 31 that's the challenge. And so the same thing with Ramadan. It's when sun goes down. It's a momentary choice.
Dude, being an ex-smoker, like literally, first thing I'd do is smoke a cigarette. And that could not, I just threw everything out the window. My dad, he's a smoker. He's still a smoker. And he'll sit there and he'll puff away on like 3 cigarettes in a row. I'm like, dude, you just totally like negated everything. Everything you did during the day is just going out the window. And then you get everyone breaks their fast on dates. You know, it's typically dates and lemon or dates and water.
Yeah.
But here's the issue that I see with the dates that we have at my grandmother's house. It's those sugar-coated dates with a lot of the molasses on it. So, I mean, that right there, that can't be good for you. Like, from everything I've read, is bone broth is the best way to go. Eat light and work your way into it.
That's Meg's excited. Excited.
I was like, Meg finally woke up.
Shut up.
She's awake now. Everyone better be prepared. This is it.
Stress terminator.
I was working on my sleep, which is tip number 7 I have for Ramadan. But sugar is tips number 1 and 2. So eating sugar and drinking sugar. And that is, the dates is fine, breaking the fast with that. But I think the bone broth is a much better option. I'm not going to say you should or shouldn't. It's going to be a better or worse option. And if you're going to eat the dates and you're going to, let's say your training times are around then, you just finished training and you want to break your fast with the dates, like by all means, go ahead with that. That's a solid option. I think there's still a health benefit to that. But if they are covered in other stuff, then you're definitely taking in more sugar than what your body needs, because dates are already incredibly high in sugar. So limiting your intake of that, I would say, is like tip number 1 as far as, eating sugar right at the breaking of the fast. But if you drink something like bone broth first and then you have your dates, that bone broth is going to help prevent that insulin spike because it's very fat heavy. So not being afraid of good, healthy fats during Ramadan when you break your fast, I think is also incredibly important.
Well, that's going to help you keep you kind of satiated as well. So it kind of help you keep you full, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
So
And
for that,
stop you from eating too much more later in the night, like unnecessarily more. Kind of obviously reaching for those sugary treats and stuff like that after dinner and things like that as well. So kind of making sure you're getting good healthy fats and realistically like sticking to those kind of rules that we've kind of talked about before for losing weight and feeling good and healthy is like trying to avoid the processed foods as much as possible, which I see like massively around, like, because obviously we have like a whole load of different bits and pieces, and usually there's a load of sweets and like they're all out at the same time. And so if that's out at the same time as your normal whole foods, your unprocessed foods, like you kind of, even if we're talking about rice and meat and things like that, like we actually then start to reach for those sweet things because our brain is going, hey, this is there, it's ready to go. And so then we start to eat too much of that and not enough of maybe the meat and rice that's actually going to keep us full. And so we're eating a lot of sugar, getting a massive insulin spike. The body's then going to start to store fat. And then actually we're completely off the road of where we want to be physically and performance-wise. Yes?
Yep. Reaching.
That's where I finished. I finished there.
That's
all I know about Ramadan.
I'm looking at the camera and I was waiting for Meg to say something. I was like, all right, I'm just going to wait for Meg. Because I was going to talk about melatonin, but yeah.
Yeah, hit me with melatonin. What's going on?
Well, melatonin, I found this in my research today, that apparently melatonin regulates, not only does it regulate your sleep, but it also regulates your appetite at night. And there was a study where they had given it to obese people in the United States. They gave them melatonin at night to reduce their appetite. And they found in the study that they did actually reduce their weight and their appetite at night. So if you increase sugar and increase your carbohydrates, Meg, correct me if I'm wrong, then you're probably going to kill your melatonin output naturally. Does that make any sense?
So repeat that, sorry, for me real quick.
So, all right. If you're eating sugar and eating carbohydrates and you continue to eat it throughout the night, right?
Yeah.
You're spiking all your levels. So then what that would cause is a crash in your melatonin levels, right? So which would make you hungry throughout the night, therefore snacking all night long.
Yeah.
Versus
so it's
if
like
you
kind of
had that natural jolt of melatonin from your body, naturally we produce it, right?
Yeah, to stop you from waking up when you sleep. And things like
exactly.
So it regulates your sleep cycle.
Exactly.
So it'd be like almost the thinking that when you start to, if you stay awake, like you have an all-nighter and then you feel like super hungry again,
exactly.
And then you just start snacking just almost because you're awake, but then also the fact the body is going, actually, I'm not getting my energy back, and so I need to keep eating.
Keep fueling the fire, basically,
And so that's kind of like almost like when we think about burning the candle at both ends, and then actually like we start to go and crave like McDonald's and all sorts of like rubbishy foods just because we haven't slept properly. But yeah, that's kind of along the same lines as what you're talking about, right?
Pretty much.
So you need to kind of regulate your sleep as much as you can during Ramadan, even if it's just like, even if you're not going to get a whole 8 hours or 9 hours or however much you need, like in one go, just trying to make sure that it's kind of like the same time so that your body can expect when to go to sleep. So then it's not going to increase that hunger hormones and then start you eating on a bad path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
pretty much.
But no, that's a good idea, though.
Good save.
Melatonin, yeah.
Good save.
But no, like, I mean, like, I didn't think of it from the melatonin standpoint, but more from the actual, like, the appetite standpoint with regards to, like, obviously people's sleep gets messed up in Ramadan.
Oh, definitely, dude. 100%. I mean, people are going to bed at like, the guys that I work with are like, yeah, I went to bed at like, 3:00 last night. I'm like, are you kidding me? No wonder why, like, you feel like shit the next day and you can't fast throughout the day. It's because you're screwing with your circadian rhythm so much that you don't know what night from day is. So your appetite's all messed up.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're eating lunch at 5 p.m. and dinner at 12 a.m.
Yeah.
And it continues throughout the night. So like you're kind of, I mean, no wonder why people are like, oh, I feel like crap. But then my, God rest her soul, my great grandmother, she was in her 70s. She looked like she was ready to go when she was fasting. Like she was all good, man.
Yeah.
She was old.
She was old.
Like she was old, but she still kept to the same rhythms that she kept to. And she always fasted like, I think 1 day a week during the week, her whole life or most of her adult life. So I think that helped her manage it too. So
yeah. I mean, realistically, we're awake like a good period of time, like before, maybe not before the sun comes up, but after the sun goes down. For sure. Like, I mean, like, at least like 3, 4, maybe 5 hours, like for people's general normal rhythm. But I think it's the social events that kind of keep people up and the kind of the obligations that people feel they have to go this one and then go to do one thereafter and then stay there.
And then you get the prayer, the Tarawih prayer. Like you pray from kind of 8 o'clock and every night it gets increased throughout Ramadan. So, that part of it too.
So it's definitely difficult to kind of regulate your sleep. But I guess it's kind of, you have to, just as you kind of brought up at the beginning about you ended up bringing food with you. It's like, okay, what are you actually trying to achieve during Ramadan? Like, are you trying to achieve more discipline? Are you trying to maybe get closer to like the head of your religion and actually understand a little bit more about things that happened in the past and things that you believe in? Are you trying to do that, or are you just trying to stay up late and eat cookies?
Yeah. I mean, if you're going through the
spirituality side of things, that wraps up nicely
today, dude.
Yeah.
But if you're going,
spirituality,
I know. I was like, man,
spiritual side of things.
I was trying to get the spiritual side of things.
Yeah.
Like then, I mean, you're practicing discipline.
Yeah.
That's what it really is about.
Yeah.
That's what the month is
about.
What I take from discipline, giving back to God, giving back to the religion. Understanding things from a different perspective. But if you're overindulging everything at night, then, you're kind of throwing that out the window.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, I mean.
Well, that's something important because when you go through a fast anyway, like your cortisol will elevate a little bit during that period. I mean, depending on how well you've prepared for it the night before, and that can go to your sleep and that can go to obviously what you've ate to, even that high alert system with your body anyway. And so you already kind of have that elevation. Having some kind of a intention set, I think, is dead on that people it's kind of the same thing with our holidays too, and Christmas and those kind of things. It becomes less about what the holiday was actually supposed to be about. It becomes more about like the gifts and things like that. Whereas Ramadan, like I feel like the intention does need to be set at the beginning of this is what I'm focusing on this month and this is my mindset with it, or this is the intention for it, because that's going to help alleviate some of that stress when your body is already under that digestive and kind of physical or emotional stress load that you're feeling from just fasting and not giving yourself the nutrients during the day. I would say the hydration part, the dehydration is probably the biggest factor in elevating that cortisol. So having that intention set with your mind, I think can definitely help alleviate some of the stress that comes along with when you do get that next meal, or how you're going to have your next meal, or attending all the social functions and kind of spreading yourself thin throughout that time. So, because when we're stressed, we crave the sweet, high fat.
Just before we forget, on that dehydration point of view, like, do you think that maybe people like, obviously, classically, people don't drink enough water anyway, but do you think a lot of that kind of satiety can be solved by just like trying to drink a little bit more water during that, like the time that you're allowed to eat before you actually maybe break your fast properly with food?
Yeah, the best way to stay hydrated, and this is something I did a lot with my clients last year, and a lot of them noticed a big difference in how they felt during our workouts and also just in general throughout the day, but making sure you get in plenty of watery fruits and vegetables once you break your fast, that's really going to help you stay hydrated. So adding those to each one of your meals is going to be great, because what happens is we break the fast, right? We've got the dates, there's high sugar, that's going to kind of dehydrate you a little bit. If you're going for all the sweets, that's going to dehydrate you. Anything fried is going to dehydrate the hell out of you. And think of how many fried options there are when you go to breaking a fast. There's a lot of them. Drinking sugar is the other thing. So when you're having your coffee or your tea and you're adding extra sugar in there, or maybe you're going for the sodas or whatever it is that you've been fasting from all day, it just really comes down to paying attention to what you're doing throughout that eating period at night. And that's watery fruits and vegetables are going to help rehydrate you. That bone broth for sure is going to give you a lot of the micronutrients that's going to help your body kind of hold that hydration. And then the healthy fats, again, I'll go back to that. That is one thing that is going to block that sugar spike, but it's also going to help you stay hydrated as well. And you want your last meal of the night, I think, to be very, very heavy in those healthy fats, because that's what's going to sustain you throughout the day. And you also want to make sure you have watery fruits and vegetables, especially for that last meal as well.
No, true.
Sweet, dude. I'm eating a ton of watermelon next month.
Oh, watermelon.
Yeah. That is so true.
Dude, I got some watermelon in the fridge, man. None for Meg, but I'll give you some
watermelon.
But no, I mean, it makes total sense. And like, one thing that I can't help but think of is when you were talking about, like, if you have the sugary stuff and you have all the fat, like all the not so good stuff for you, like the kanafa and whatever else, you're going to be craving it the next day mentally too. I mean,
yeah, big time.
Like it's just, like food is a mental aspect. There's an addictive aspect to food. So when you're having all of that and you're satiating your brain with those.
Food is a very social thing.
It is, but even the next day, like I'm saying the hangover, I'll call it the hangover effect from, going ham on like everything.
Oh my God, dude.
Yep.
I had a pizza last night and I woke up this morning and I felt like hungover.
Yeah.
I don't eat any of that processed stuff.
I think I got some donuts for my birthday and I was like, I had like 4 of them. And the next day, all I wanted was donuts. And I hadn't had donuts for ages. And I didn't crave them or anything like that. But the next thing, all you want is that.
But dude, food is so tied in with addiction. And Meg, I don't know, have you seen, what is it, the C Word on Netflix?
Oh, yeah, the cancer one,
Yeah, the cancer documentary.
Yeah.
When they showed that the big tobacco companies bought the food companies, that's when I was like, all right, so now, would you trust the bastards that were giving us cigarettes for 40 years saying that you're okay to produce your food that you're putting in your mouth and then claim it's not addictive? Dude, like when I thought about it logically, when I was heavier, man, I remember I'd open a bag of chips, I'd open a bag of Doritos, and I'd just keep eating the Doritos. There was a time where I was eating a bag of Cool Ranch Doritos every damn day with grape soda.
Nice. It was gains. Recipe for gains.
It was damn good, though.
So gross.
It was damn good, dude. Yeah. But when I think of it logically, it's like, these are the assholes that did that. They had doctors going on TV in the 60s saying, hey, smoke a cigarette. It's okay. Doctor approved. So,
doctor approved.
Dude, there are commercials, man. I got to freaking tag some of those in the show notes. But when it comes down to it, because what gets released in the brain when we're happy?
Go on.
Dopamine. I was waiting for you two to kind of follow
dopamine
up there. Liam just looks at me like, yeah, go on.
Just for comical effects.
You're an asshole. But anyways, dopamine gets released. So when we get that dopamine released the night before when we're going ham at, futur, the next day, we're probably
chasing that dopamine.
We're gonna be lacking in dopamine, and we're gonna be chasing it. We're gonna feel like crap. So in essence, you do have a food hangover.
Yeah, no, you do genuinely. You have to be really, really mindful of that, and especially the fact that there's 30 days of that.
Yeah,
and so that's the reason why most people are going to be gaining, because they're just constantly going back for that. But I know one thing that
there's other ways to get that dopamine. Oh, sorry, go
ahead. One thing I know that kind of obviously talked on the food thing quite a bit, but kind of bringing it back to training a little bit. Like, can we maintain muscle mass during this period? Because that is the main thing that I get asked a lot. Like, is okay, I know that Ramadan is coming up. I know that these social events are coming up. I know that I'm going to my sleep is going to be a bit all over the place. And I know that I'm maybe not going to be eating as optimally as I try to do outside of Ramadan. Am I going to lose everything that I've tried to do during the year? I mean, what do we think?
No, hell no. I mean, if you're smart about your training, you're smart about your eating, you could potentially actually put muscle on, because there have been studies that have shown in mice actually, and I think maybe some human studies, where if you deprive yourself from protein and then you go and eat protein, it has more of a jolt effect.
Increased uptake. Increased protein synthesis.
Increased protein synthesis, because your body's not, you deprived it for so long. So then it's like, all right, give me. Yeah. So then you can maintain those gains, even increase your gains. In fact, this Ramadan, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to try doing more of my strength work early in the morning between 7 and 8, and then going throughout the day and then doing my cardio later at night after futur. I'm going to see how it goes for the first week and try something new this year.
That's definitely a style that when I worked with my clients, it depended on when they wanted to train. If they wanted to get their training in while they're fasted, or if they want to do it in after breaking fast, that definitely dictated the type of training that we were doing. So if you're going for, like high intensity cardio stuff where you're sweating a ton and you're losing a lot of water, and you're doing that during your fasted period where you're already pretty dehydrated, depending on what you did the night before, you can go into your workout hydrated, but that takes, a lot of mindfulness the night before and with the sleep. But I like the idea of starting off with your strength training in the morning and then finishing with the higher intensity stuff after you've broken the fast, just from hydration standpoint. I think that's a lot better for the body and the muscles, but I'm a big fan of, strength training fasted.
Yeah, I think there's definite benefit to it. And obviously then we know that strength training is going to keep your muscle, like it's anti-catabolic. It's going to make sure that your body will switched on to maintaining lean muscle.
That's actually a damn good point. That's a really good point there. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Because when you are telling your body, hey, we need this muscle, don't start eating away at muscle, eat away at fat first, then you're that's where the gains happen.
Yeah. And for me personally, that's what I do with like most of my clients and athletes. Like I'll keep them on more of a strength program, usually because like we kind of know like people are going to eat a little bit more. Like, so it's a good opportunity to make some good strength gains moving forward, but also they're probably, depending on how they eat and how they sleep, they might be a little bit more tired. So higher intensity stuff is less likely to be as effective, but people always like lifting heavy weight.
Yeah.
And also like obviously we think about those physiological triggers of like actually when we lift heavy weight, the body's going to keep hold of lean muscle. When we lift heavy weight, like we're probably going to kind of keep our appetite. So we're not going to lose too much as well. But then also like as long as the guys are disciplined and they kind of make the right choices after Fatur, then like we've got a much better chance of kind of keeping lean muscle gains from previous and then also still making steps forward that we can then capitalize on at the end of Ramadan.
Yeah. I want to see how my testosterone levels are. Because, you can feel when you're sluggish or whatever, your hormones are off. I want to see how my testosterone levels are when I'm lifting like weights in the morning, but it's not going to be like literally it's going to be strength. Like I'm not going to crush it. I'm going in there maybe 80% of my max. That's what I'm going at because you're in a fasted state. I'm going to have the rest of the day plus go to work. So I need to plan the day properly.
That's important to touch out. Like, just the expectations, I think, with knowing that your body is going to get weak when it doesn't move. And so during Ramadan, you do have less energy available, but you do want to keep up with your strength. I think setting a good goal with that of like 80%, for some people, maybe it's less. That's your goal. But I think people just need to definitely check in with that, like PRs and things. Probably maybe Ramadan's not the time to be crushing and going after those. Again, it depends on what your routine is and what you're doing the night before. But I think definitely making the time for the movement to keep the strength, to let your body know exactly that, you're not trying to be weak. I think push-ups, squats, pull-ups, planks. I mean, those are easy body weight ones. If you absolutely feel like you don't have the energy to get to the gym, like make time for some of those body weight things on your own. Just keep that mind-muscle connection going during the month.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, I think the general gist of the conversation is that like you are not going to die. Like, cause if you don't eat for 9 or 10 hours, your body does not want to eat up your muscle. Like that is going to be the last thing that your body is going to choose to do.
Yeah. Muscle's
if
expensive.
It's in like that. Yeah. Like it's not going to go for that straight away. So I think like losing muscle during Ramadan, it's difficult to do if you're still making time to move, if you're hydrating, if you're sleeping the best that you can, and if you're getting in real whole foods.
I think, I've heard a really, really good analogy about Ramadan and weight training. It was kind of just saying it was like a tiger that never hunts when it's full. So like obviously like peak performance time and it's hungry. Like it's basically the only reason it's going to hunt is because it's hungry.
That's pretty good.
So actually, good. So like kind of actually if you get after it before, like there has been studies shown, I can't remember them off the top of my head. I remember this was basis for how I was training my athletes last Ramadan. But we did a lot of strength training just before Fatur. And we actually saw a testosterone spike. They came in and they were actually pretty lethargic. As soon as they started to warm up, like they were like on fire. They were going. And then they got to like eat after they finished their training and they felt amazing. And then they sleep really well, chill out, and then they come and do it again the next day. So I find it is a really, really beneficial way to do it.
No, it's funny. I mean, everyone is different. That's actually really good. I like that analogy, man.
You can have that one.
I will. I'm going to steal it, dude. I'm going to put it on a bumper sticker or something. But no, I mean, that's a good point. Like there have been times where I've gone into workouts fasted. Like my best workouts have been in the morning when I've eaten barely anything, just had some coffee. It would make sense because you do get that spike, you get that little adrenaline rush and it's like, all right, I'm good to go.
Because your body's like, that's the only thing it has to focus on.
Maddie, when you did that, did you know that you were going to be doing that the next morning? Like, did you know that you were going to get up and go for that workout that day? And like, did that determine anything for your night routine or how you ate that night before bed?
Yeah, pretty much.
See, I think that's the huge thing with it. Like, it really is. It's that last meal. And I think the sleep that you get and what you do in that fast breaks, that's going to determine what kind of success you have movement wise, stress wise, and everything going into the next day. I think it all kind of starts. It's the opposite. Like usually we say, good sleep starts in the morning, getting up, getting some good sunlight, getting that circadian rhythm going, good movement throughout the day. Like that stuff is going to set you up for good sleep at night. In Ramadan, it's kind of the opposite schedule. So I think it's what you do in that night routine and that fasting breaks is what's going to set you up for success in the morning.
No, it totally makes a difference. I mean, if I ate like crap the night before, I was having a horrible workout.
There's no way.
Yeah, I was having a horrible workout. And then I got into this kick for about 2 years or 3 years where I would not eat 4 or 5 hours prior to my workout just because I felt better. But every single person is different. Some people can't lift weights before fluid. They can't exercise before fluid, so they leave it till afterwards, which is totally fine. I mean, as we say, it depends.
Yeah.
It really just depends on you.
But finding a good coach would be a good thing to help that.
That is very true.
Someone who actually understands nutrition, understands the training elements, but also understands you as well. And so if you guys have a coach, then don't be afraid to ask them, like, what is the best thing for me? And then try it out. Because again, like this is a completely new cycle of the year for that particular athlete. And so, and then just got to try it and you've got to see what happens, just the same as any other month in the year.
Yeah. But again, it's your body. So at the end of the day, you should, it takes a while to learn what your body needs to function. And, I mean, I'm well into my 30s and I still don't understand my body completely. And a lot of people are like,
it's an ongoing process because what you did in your 20s is going to be different for what your body requires in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. I mean, there's always going to be a trial and error process. But I think the more you kind of, play around with these ideas of things, intermittent fasting or, less sugar intake or fats and healthy fats and discovering the more in tune you come with it, that you kind of know how to grow with your body. You become better at being intuitive with it and listening. You know what your body is kind of asking for. You know what those signs of dehydration feel like versus, just a caffeine headache or, a lack of sleep. Like you can start to differentiate those kinds of signals from your body. Intermittent fasting is a great way to become in touch with a lot of that of like, what is your body communicating to you?
And when you are fasting, I hate to say this, but it is probably the best time to lose belly fat. Like the visceral fat in studies, it's shown that visceral fat is the first to come off. So it's probably the most ideal time to exercise. But again, you got to see how you feel. Yeah.
It just takes discipline, doesn't it? Like, I mean, I think it just comes down to just like, you got to decide what you want and then you got to do it.
Hey, man, that's what Ramadan's all about, man. It's discipline.
But that's why I would like, that's why I would like to see more people getting after it. Like, because I'm like taking advantage of the fact that it's there. And like, rather than going, oh, well, it's Ramadan, like I got to do this. It's like, no, like be like, it's Ramadan. It's a great opportunity for me to get after my goals in an even like more intense way. Like it's a great opportunity because almost everyone else around it is supporting it.
The first couple of weeks really strong.
Yeah, for sure. And it's just like maintaining it through. Like realistically, it's only 1 month.
Yeah.
Get after it.
And it resets your gut. Like, so Meg, it's definitely helps the gut. I was just going
to say, it definitely does. I'm saying there's like, whether your goal is to lose some body fat or to maintain your muscle or whatever intention you set for the month, there's like 7 key takeaways. We'll just recap. I think that kind of fit into all of that. And that is the sugar intake, being mindful of that. Number 1, drinking sugar, eating sugar. The probiotic deficiency is the other one. So that goes right into the gut health that you were just mentioning. And that's where the bone broth is key because your disease starts in the guts. And if you're loading up with, the sugars or the unhealthy things, you're damaging what's happening in your guts at that time. And the intermittent fasting is something that's great for killing off a lot of the bad bacteria and things in there that can damage your guts and cause a disease. So if you go for something like the bone broth, the healthy fruits and vegetables, the herbs, the spices, the real food, the good fermented stuff, that can really help promote that in the fasting period. So making sure at night that you've got some good probiotics in there. Yeah, gut health is a huge one with success in Ramadan for sure on those goals. And then the fat, the good healthy fats, like fat does not make you fat. And I just feel like that conversation can't happen enough because people still go after the low fat labels. They're concerned, especially in Ramadan, with losing fat. And those are just packed with more sugar. Anything labeled low fat, I would say ditch it. Don't go for it because they're packed with more sugar. And things that are going to increase all those things that we were talking about, like the next day of wanting to reach for the bad stuff, and it's going to disrupt your sleep totally. So fat's going to promote good sleep. It's going to help with those sugar intake or sugar spikes, and it tastes good.
It tastes good. It really does.
Just avocado. I think that last meal of the day I think one of the best ones that I've recommended for a lot of people, and when I played with as my eggs with the yolk, that's just a great, really nutrient dense one. Nuts and seeds are great ones for kind of those later snacks in the evening, because that fat is slow burning too. So that's what's going to keep you going through those long fasting hours, especially if you are going to move around the next day or if you do have to go to work or whatever the situation is. I think keeping that fat in there. And then the movement and the mindfulness, find what movement works for you. Don't let the body get weak during that time. Even if it's just your body weight, add more of it in through the day. A good fasted walk in the morning is probably a great way to start off the day. Let your body know that, you're working with it and that setting that intention. And sleep. That's the biggest thing that's going to set you up for success too. And going on with that of like the social hours and those being so late, I think the other thing that crashes with this is you talk about the circadian rhythm, and it's that screen time before bed and stuff too. So not only are we up a lot later and socializing, but if we're on our phones and things, kind of keeping that old night routine of that blue lights being emitted and telling your body that it's still time to stay up and go. I think kind of watch the screen time at some of those gatherings as well, and emails and texts and all that stuff that's going on just later in the day and later at night, and heavy conversations, gossip conversations, and that kind of stuff that can all disrupt your sleep if you're getting into that kind of stuff, before your body is ready to shut it down and de-stress. I think those are all things to be mindful of in those late night events.
Yeah, so not much then.
It's not much. Not
Dude,
much.
Meg, you just gave me a reason to do the carnivore diet, dude. I'm so eating a T-bone steak every damn night,
diet?
dude. Yeah, dude, I've been itching to try it. And my cousin scared me off. He's a doctor. He's like, dude, you'll kill your kidneys, your liver, and this. No, man, after what you just said, I'm going all fat Ramadan. Yeah. Carnivore diet all the way, dude.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah, give it a try. I'm never going to say no. Like, I think experiment and see what you learn. Go for it.
Dude, chicken, I swear to God, chicken doesn't sit well with me. Like, I figured it out. I had chicken this week, and I was like fighting with everybody, dude.
Fighting.
Yeah, I was in a mood. Everything felt off. I had red meat yesterday. I feel great today.
No problem.
No, I feel great, dude.
Sick carnivore diet.
I know, right?
You're going to try it. We should try it.
No, I'm going to try it.
I would say if the nutrition stuff is overwhelming too, like I say those like 7 things, but I feel like a lot of them are all just kind of like the same thing. It's just low sugar, high fat. Sleep well. Those are the main takeaways.
Make good choices.
But I would say there is a challenge that was, I forget who started it. It was going around, but it was like the 800 grams of fruit and vegetables per night challenge. And I did that one last year. I still drank water during the day during Ramadan, but I did do some fasting during that time. But I did the 800 grams of fruits and vegetables, and you can have them in any form. They can be fresh, frozen, canned if you want. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like, just get your fruits and vegetables in. But 8 servings, it's like 8 to 10 servings is what that kind of works out to, is 800 grams of it. So like a fist size, let's say. And if you just that's an easy measurement while you are at those events of just like loading up your plates of try to get in all your meals throughout the night. 8 to 10 servings of that.
That's a lot.
It's a good amount, but that's
a lot.
It is. It's a lot. It's got the good water that's going to hydrate you. It's very nutrient dense. It makes a big difference. You feel good.
Sweet. We'll try that.
I feel good on meat. I'm still saving over the meat that I'm
cherry picking Meg's advice now.
I know, right? I'm just taking what I like out of it. I'm like, all right, Meg, you're awesome, dude. You're the shit, man. Giving me everything I want out of this conversation. So funny. Eat the meat, go to sleep. Yeah. De-stress. Don't talk. Don't bitch about anybody.
Just don't talk to anyone.
Don't do anything.
Just eat. Go to the gym. That's it. There you go. That's the kind of the concise edition of what we just said. Just like, don't speak to anyone. Like, you don't need to. Don't go on your phone. Don't do anything. Just go to the gym and eat meat.
All right. I'm doing it for the show now. Yeah. Well, that's what Meg said, and I'm doing it for the show.
Done.
I'm doing the experiment for the show.
Ramadan techniques done. Completed it.
I feel like you guys have twisted. I feel like you guys have twisted my words.
No, we have not. That's it. No, we're good. Okay, thank you very much, Meg. Appreciate it.
Now everybody's confused.
No, they can hit rewind. They can actually listen to the real stuff. Meg said legit stuff, but no, I mean, no, you're right, Meg. I mean, 100%. No, it's 100%, dude. But cool. I mean, it's discipline, and hopefully everyone does have a good Ramadan. I think. So
if you don't have an intention set for Ramadan, then your intention is discipline. We'll set it for you.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. That's a good one, Meg.
There we go. See, Meg does come up with interesting stuff.
Well, she's
sometimes.
Waking up, dude.
Yeah, there we go.
She's almost awake. It's like 15 minutes later.
I hate you guys so much right now.
All right, guys. But happy Ramadan.
Wait, hold on.
You have no idea how hard it is to do this when you can't see people.
It's quite funny.
I know. Because there were some pauses and Liam's like, I don't know, looking over there, and I'm like flipping him off. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, happy Ramadan, guys.
Have a happy
Ramadan
Ramadan.
Kareem.
Kil aam wa antum bkhair. That's my Arabic bit right there.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Impressive.
Thanks for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. You can also find us on Instagram at The Project Kuwait. Thank you, and join us next time.